Who are the best authors of the 21st century? Which ones have been really successful? Hi there, my name is Brian Collins and welcome to the Become a Writer Today channel. So I'm an avid reader. I read across genres and niches. So in this video, I'm going to profile or give you a roundup of 28, yes that's right, 28 of the most successful authors of the 21st century. Of course, this roundup is hugely subjective, so please let me know if I've missed anybody. With that said, let's dive in. Oh, and please remember, if you'd like to get more videos like this, where I profile other authors that you should check out, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. First up on this list is J.K. Rowling, aka Joanne Rowling. This British author has some pretty controversial views, but you can't deny she's one of the most successful authors of the 21st century. Of course, that's down to the success of the Harry Potter series of books and her Wizarding World series. She was born in 1965 and she says she grew up with a love for books. Now, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone came out all the way back in 1997, so it's quite some time ago. And since then, she's written under a pen name as well. And of course, her books have even been turned into a theme park. I was lucky enough to visit one of those theme parks when I was on holidays with the kids a few years ago. And I was really struck by how she was able to turn an idea into her head into a hugely successful global franchise. Next up is English novelist Zadie Smith. She's a novelist and professor. She graduated from King's College and the University of Cambridge. She was born in London in 1975. And did you know she didn't always want to be a writer? She said that as a child, she wanted to be a dancer or perform in musical theatre. But I guess there's a link between these two creative pursuits. She's a hugely lengthy list of awards to her name and is even an elected fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. Of course, her most famous book is perhaps her first novel, White Teeth, which actually received an award before she'd even completed it. It was published all the way back in 2000 and became a bestseller. And in 2002, she was elected as a fellow for the Royal Society of Literature. And back then, she was named as one of the 20 best young British novelists to watch out for. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichi was born in Nigeria in 1977. She grew up on a college campus and there she learned or acquired a love of education, reading and writing. She got a degree from Eastern Connecticut State University in political science before getting a master's in creative writing. Her first or debut novel, Purple Hibiscus, won the Commonwealth Writers' Prize for Best First Book. She also published Half of Yellow Sun and The Thing Around Your Neck, which was a compilation of her short stories, which also won awards. She's well known today for writing about themes like women's rights and independence, and she's also published several popular TED Talks, which are worth checking out too. Next up on this list is one of my favourite authors of all time. I'm talking about Cormac McCarthy. He was born in 1933 in Rhode Island and he went to the University of Tennessee. He started publishing books in 1979 and he's still working today. His first successful novel is called All the Pretty Horses, which received a National Book Critics Circle Award and also a National Book Award. But perhaps his most famous book is The Road, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction and which also won the James Tate Memorial Prize. It was also turned into a film starring Viggo Mortensen. Personally, I prefer the book versus the film, but both are worth checking out. He's written lots of other novels too, some of which are a bit harder to get into than The Road, as well as plays, screenplays and short stories. Elena Ferrante is the pen name for the author of several novels which were originally published in Italian. One of her most widely known works is the Neapolitan novels. That's a 4-volume work about 2 girls born in Naples. Now, the author's identity is unknown and we don't have much details about her biography, but it hasn't hurt her influence. In 2016, Times magazine called her one of the 100 most influential people of the year. Considering Donald Trump was #1, that doesn't take away from her literary achievements. George Saunders is another one of my favourite authors. That's because he writes about everything in multiple genres, including children's books, novels, short stories, and essays. He was born in 1958 in Texas. He attended the Colorado School of Mines and got a graduate degree from Syracuse University. He actually teaches creative writing on the side and he's a recipient of a Guggenheim Fellowship and the MacArthur Fellowship. He's many award-winning books, as you can imagine. His book, 10th of December, was published in 2014 and it won the Folio Prize and the Booker Prize as well in 2017. He also won the Booker Prize in 2017 for Lincoln in the Bardo, and he contributes articles, long articles, to many famous magazines including GQ, The New Yorker and Harper's. Hilary Mantel is another British author with a deserved spot on this list. She was born in 1952 and sadly she passed away in late 2022. She's best known for her memoirs, short stories and of course her historical fiction series which won multiple Booker Awards. I'm talking about the Wolf Hall series of books which has also been turned into a TV show. She won the Booker Prize for the first and second book in that series. During her career, Mantel actually attracted a bit of controversy about when she made some critical statements about the monarchy, and she even said that she once fantasized about the murder of Margaret Thatcher. Next up is another popular British author. Ian McEwan was born in 1948 and he was educated at the University of Sussex and the University of East Anglia. He travelled a lot during his childhood and many of his experiences on the road inform his books and stories. Now he won the Booker Prize all the way back in 1998 for his popular work Atonement, which was also turned into a film, and it was named Best Novel in 2002 by Time magazine. Some of his other famous books include Solar and Sweet Tooth. Next up is Margaret Atwood. She was born in 1939 in Ontario, Canada. Now she's been a prolific author for years and has written a number of popular science fiction and literary books. But she really became a household name when her book The Handmaid's Tale, which was actually published in 1985, was turned into a major series for Netflix. The story is of course about a dystopian society, which many commentators liked to draw comparisons between the current political establishment, or at least the one that was in place back in 2016. She wrote a follow-up to this book, which was called The Testaments, and that was published in 2019. If you're interested in science fiction that relates to the politics of the day, then Margaret Atwood is somebody that you should probably check out. Next up is Marilynne Robinson. She's a novelist from America who has won many awards. She was born in Idaho in 1943, and she is famous for several different books. But perhaps her most famous work is Gilead, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2005. It's all about the life and theology of a fictional congressional minister, and she explores many theological ideas inside of her works or inside of her fiction. She's also well known for Jack Lila Home and Housekeeping. And in 2016, she was given the Library of Congress Prize for American Fiction, and she was also named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. Veronica Roth is a younger writer on this list. She was born in 1988. She's best known for her dystopian coming-of-age fantasy series, the Divergent Trilogy. And she wrote the first book while she was on a winter break at Northwestern University. She currently lives in Chicago. Now, the Divergent series has sold over 5 million copies, and she's also written several short stories based on this series as well. Colson Whitehead was born in 1969 in New York, and he grew up in Manhattan. This African-American author attended Harvard University and lived in Brooklyn for a time during his early writing career. Then he moved back to Manhattan. He started writing for the Village Voice, and there he showcased his work and started working on his novels as well. Now, since then, he has written over 8 novels. These include The Underground Railroad, which is perhaps his most famous work, and became an Oprah Book Club choice. The book also won the 2016 National Book Award and the 2017 Pulitzer Prize. Did you know he won the Pulitzer Prize again in 2020 for his other book, The Nickel Boys? And he's also experimented or dabbled in non-fiction through his works The Colossus of New York and The Noble Hustle. Next up, we have David Mitchell. So he was born in 1969 in Lancashire. He attended the University of Kent where he studied English and literature. And he even taught English in Japan for a season while he was building his career as a young writer. Ghost Written was his first novel, and that was published all the way back in 1999, and it won several awards at the time. But he's actually best known for Cloud Atlas, which was also turned into a feature film starring Tom Hanks. Personally, I found it a little bit inaccessible, but a lot of readers love it. He's also well known for The Bone Clocks, which was shortlisted for the 2014 Booker Prize. Utopia Avenue is perhaps his most recent work, and that was published in 2020. Jennifer Egan is a short story and novel writer from the United States. She was born in 1962 in Chicago and attended the University of Pennsylvania. Did you know she once dated Steve Jobs from Apple? And in 2018 she was president of the PEN America Center. Now she worked for several periodicals during her career, including The New Yorker, Harper's and Zoetrope. Her first novel is The Invisible Circus, and that was published in 1995, and it also became a film under the same name, although it's not that well known today. A Visit to Goon Squad is one of her most famous works. That's because it won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Critics Circle Award in 2011. Next up on this list is a writer's writer. I'm talking about Jonathan Franzen, who was born in Illinois in 1959. Now he's written over 5 novels, but perhaps his most famous are The Corrections, which was published in 2001, and also Freedom. Franzen is also best known for writing essays for magazines like The New Yorker, and also for his 2020 novel Crossroads. Now Franzen is considered a writer's writer because he has some hardcore rules about the craft. He once said that when he's working on a novel, he physically removes the Wi-Fi card from his laptop and superglues the Ethernet port shut. That's because he believes it's impossible to get anything meaningful done while you're connected to the internet. That may explain his dense prose and also his novels, which span well over 1,000 pages in length. Still, they're a cracking read. Winfried Georg Sebald, or W.G. Sebald, was a German writer who was born in 1944 and died just aged 57 in 2001. Although many of his books were published during the 20th century, he deserves a spot on this list of the best 21st century authors because of Austerlitz, his final novel, which was published in 2001, so it just makes the cut. It won the National Book Critics Circle Award, and at the time of his death, his critics or his peers considered him one of the greatest living authors of all time. Now his other famous books include The Rings of Saturn, Vertigo and The Emigrants, and he is also well known for his poetry. Next up on this list is another writer who's popular in creative writing groups. I'm talking about Michale Chabon, who's an American novelist and short story writer. Now he was born in Washington DC in 1963. He attended Carnegie Mellon University, the University of Pittsburgh and the University of California. But he got his start as a writer when his advisor for a thesis or a master's thesis submitted his thesis for publication without Chabon's knowledge. And that thesis subsequently became The Mysteries of Pittsburgh. He famously uses metaphors and complex language in his works, and in 2001 he won the Pulitzer Prize for The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. But my favourite work by Michale is not that book, it's actually his contribution to the 2020 TV show Picard, which Michale wrote several episodes of. Neil Gaiman was born in 1960 in England. He's known as an adult author, a children's book author, screenwriter and comic book author. He says he grew up with a love of reading. Now he got his start writing for graphic comic novels like The Sandman before going on to write children's and adults books. My favourite children's book by him is The Graveyard Book, and my favourite adult book by him is called American Gods, which was turned into a TV show for Amazon Prime. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about Neil's writing process, he teaches an excellent course on Masterclass where he explains how he comes up with his ideas for his fiction. I took that masterclass and I was intrigued to see how he collaborates with designers and artists when he's working on graphic novels like The Sandman. So I'd encourage you to check that out. And I do have a video on this channel where I review Masterclass in detail. I could not record a list like this without mentioning Stephen King. He's perhaps the most famous and influential 21st century author of all time. That's because he's so prolific and he writes across so many different genres, including horror, speculative fiction, science fiction, supernatural, murders, mysteries, thrillers, you name it. The King of Horror has written over 64 novels last time I checked. Chances are he's gone past that by the time you watch this video. He was born in 1947 in Maine and he graduated from a university in Maine. He's won multiple awards and in 2004 he even won a Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, one of my favourite books by King is called The Shining. I'm also a big fan of Carrie and also of Salem's Lot. But Shining is perhaps his most successful or popular work and it sold nearly 1 million copies to date. That said, that pales in comparison to how many copies he's sold when you look at his entire back catalogue. Last time I checked, Stephen King has shipped over 350 million copies, which is incredible when you think about it. It must put him on par, if not ahead of J.K. Rowling. Speaking of prolific authors like Stephen King, enter James Patterson. He's perhaps the most financially successful author on this list, if not of all time. Estimates say that he earns over $85 million a year for his books. He works pretty hard for it too. He's in his mid-70s and he says he works 70 plus hours a week and will often work on 30 plus books at any one time. That's because he's a master at collaborating with other writers, authors, and even celebrities and politicians like Bill Clinton. His books have sold over 400 million copies, and he was the first author to sell 100 million ebooks. He's best known for the Alex Cross series, and he's an author that also teaches a class on Masterclass where he goes into his creative writing process. Alan Hollinghurst was born in 1954 in Gloucester in England. He's a writer and a translator. He's best known for his novels, poems and short stories. He studied English in university and then became a lecturer before he started a successful writing career. His most famous work, it won the Man Booker Prize in 2004. It's called The Line of Beauty and it became a BBC television series in 2006. Other favourite or other top books for him to check out include Folding Star, Spell and The Stranger's Child. Next up is Kazuo Ishiguro. He was born in Japan in 1954. When he was 6 years of age, his family moved him to the United Kingdom. He's considered a prolific science fiction and historical fiction writer. He has lots of different works to his name, and he's even won the Man Booker Prize like many entrants on this list. Never Let Me Go is one of his most famous works. This 2005 novel was named one of the 100 best English novels of all time, and in 2017 he even won the Nobel Prize in Literature for his works. He's also famous for Nocturnes, 5 Stories of Music and Nightfall, and also for his collection of short stories and screenplays. Suzanne Collins was born in 1962 in Connecticut. She attended Indiana University and New York University. Her acclaimed series, that's called The Hunger Games, and this trilogy became a major motion picture franchise. The book series itself set in the New York Times bestseller list for a whopping 60 plus weeks in a row. NPR ran a poll of the best top teen novels of all time, and it made the top 10 list alongside Harry Potter. She's also well known for the Underland Chronicles, which is a different children's book series that's also worth checking out. Philip Roth was an American novelist and short story writer from New Jersey. He was born in 1933 and he died in 2018, aged 85. His works were famous for blurring the line between reality and fiction, and they're all about exploring the American dream and contemporary politics. One of his most famous novels is The Plot Against America, which was published in 2004. It recounts an alternative history in which Franklin D. Roosevelt didn't win the presidential election and the fate of America changes forever. And of course, that was also turned into a popular TV series. He won the Faulkner Award and he also won the Pulitzer Prize for his book American Pastoral. Sally Rooney is from Ireland. As of 2023, she has 4 novels to her name. She was born in 1991, so one of the younger writers on this list. She attended Trinity College in Dublin. I also went to Trinity College, but I never got to meet Sally. She wrote her first novel when she was aged just 15. Now, her first book is called Conversations with Friends, and that earned her a master's degree in literature. But it was her second novel, Normal People, which became a breakout success and also a hugely popular TV show as well. It was an instant bestseller and it sold over 64,000 hardcover copies during its first 4 months. And the follow-up novel, Beautiful World, Where Are You, was also a massive hit. Of course, Sally Rooney is also well known for writing short stories, essays and poetry. Anne Enright is also from Ireland. She's the Irish novelist born in 1962. She also attended Trinity College as well as the University of East Anglia. She's won multiple awards for her creative writing, and before she became a successful author, she was a television producer for the Nighthawks programme or TV show, which was on RTE, which is our national broadcaster. Now, she's well known in Ireland for writing for magazines and newspapers. Some of her famous novels include The Wig My Father Wore and also The Gathering. It was that book that won the Booker Prize in 2007. She's also well known for her 2015 novel The Green Road, which won several awards in Ireland. Not every author on this list writes fiction. Daniel Kahneman is an Israeli-American psychologist and economist. I included him because he's had a profound impact on the field of psychology and decision making, and he won the 2002 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science for his work on behavioural economics. What's all this got to do with writing? Well, he's the author of the hugely popular book Thinking Fast and Slow, which became an instant classic in the field of behavioural economics. And it was one of Barack Obama's favourite books while he was president. The final non-fiction author on this list is Canadian journalist and author Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell has single-handedly changed how people write business books today. He's best known for titles like The Tipping Point, Blink, Outliers, What the Dog Saw, and David and Goliath. And he's changed the face of business writing because he combines insights and scientific studies and papers with storytelling and the type of writing that you will typically see in fiction. In other words, he's able to bring creative work and research together and create something that's both enjoyable and informative to read. He's also well known as a staff writer for The New Yorker, and his books cover everything from psychology to sociology to behavioural economics. He also teaches a class on Masterclass, which is worth checking out. Those are just 28 of the most successful authors of the 21st century. Of course, this list is hugely subjective, so please let me know in the comments section below about any glaring omissions and I'll include them in a future roundup. And if you'd like to get more videos like this or about other great authors or writers, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.